Hey guys, Run over here and welcome to another guide, featuring Fighter for version 2. Quite a few things was added since the last guide I've done for this class, and this video will cover everything that is up to date with Fighter, regarding Photon Arts, skills, active skills, playstyles, and more. Fighter is an all melee focused class where it focuses on close range combat, while their defense stats are not as high but can still put out a large amount of DPS. They also have 3 weapons you can utilize with, the Twin Daggers, which focuses on airport combat, Double Sabers with the power of the wind by your side, and Knuckles where you punch everything with your fists. Now compared to my last fighter guide, there's quite a lot of things added since then for the class, especially in its skill tree and Photon Arts. We'll start by covering the Photon Arts. Do note that each Photon Art that fighter has have 2 variations, one where you'll perform different types of attacks depending on your directional input, and one without any directional inputs. Now for each fighter weapons, each weapon has 4 Photon Arts. Starting with the Twin Daggers, we have Circling Buzzard. When you perform this PA with a directional input, you'll do a small spin while closing in on enemies and then rush into a combo of attacks. If you perform this PA without any directional inputs, you'll skip the first half and perform the combo of attacks on the spot instead. The Hellzeus Coat with directional input, you'll close the gap between you and the enemy, following up with a shockwave while pushing you back. And while without any inputs, you'll just shoot the shockwaves while pushing you backwards still. Pirouette Ripper. With the directional inputs, you'll tackle the enemy following up with a series of spikes, and with no inputs, you'll just perform a series of spikes on the spot. And Limber Figure, of course with directional inputs, you'll spawn a vertical rift on the enemy following up with an AoE attack doing small DPS as long as enemies are in range. However, this will only trigger if you land the initial hit. If you do the PA and it misses, nothing will happen, resulting in PP loss. And with no inputs, you'll do an AoE attack pulling enemies towards you. Now for Double Sabers, we have Julian Dance. When you do a directional input while using this PA, you will quickly close in on enemies within range. However, if you do this without enemies in range, you'll skip the movement phase and just do the upward swoop, following up with a series of combos. And with no directional inputs, you'll just perform a series of attacks while generating whirlwinds. The Unchained Circle, with directional input, you'll throw your sabers around yourself, dealing AoE damage followed by a finishing slash. However, while you're in this state, you are animation locked. And with no inputs, you'll just skip the first half and do the finishing slash instead. Quick Gash. With directional inputs, you will do 3 attacks followed by spawning a tornado at the end. You can also use this to reposition yourself to get in a better spot. This also grants a bit of iframes after the tornado phase. And of course with no inputs, we'll only let you spawn a tornado. And Sky Climb, with directional inputs, you will do a rippling upward slash, gaining some height, and then slamming down on enemies. And with no inputs, you'll just slam down on enemies instead. The Double Sabers have a unique system with a whirlwind, and it's also one of the main strong points for the Sabers. You'll see why once we get to the skills later. And last but not least, we have Knuckles with Swift Rush. With directional inputs, you'll rush enemies down, followed by a series of attacks pushing you backwards. And with no inputs, you'll just do a gush punch, pushing you backwards. 1000 Blows. With inputs, you'll throw punches to everything that is in range in front of your character, followed by an uppercut Shoryuken. And with no inputs, you'll just do the uppercut instead. Double Drive. With inputs, you will throw 1 punch while pushing yourself forward, following up with 2 punches. And with no inputs, you'll just skip into just doing 2 punches instead. And last but not least, we have Backhand Strike. Like the name states, you'll do a backhand strike. While both have identical animations, their directional input has a slightly longer window of animations. However, this can act as a counterattack if you time your attacks with enemies. If you manage to time your attacks correctly, you will do more damage than you would originally. And with no inputs, you'll just do a generic backhand strike. Now moving on to the skills, each of these skills help buff the weapons even further with benefits. Don't worry, I know it may look like there's a lot in here, but I will go over each one to help you better understand them. But let's start with the subclass skills. The Defeat Advantage and Defeat PP Recovery increases potency, damage, and PP recovery when attacking enemies that are stunned. This is very good if you want to deal more damage on downed enemies and setting Fighter as a subclass. Overload is an active skill only available for Fighter main class. This increases the damage you deal by 120% for 30 seconds, but with the downside of yourself taking more incoming damage than what you would normally take by 150%. So this is basically like a double-edged sword. The cooldown for this active skill is 2 minutes. Overload has 4 sub-skills that can help support the active skill. Overload Endurance will leave you at 1 HP if you take a fatal blow that would have killed you, while granting 5 seconds of iframes. Overload PP Recovery of course increases both your offensive and natural PP recovery by 200%. This is very good since Fighter is a very PP hungry class. Overload Short Cycle reduces the effect duration down to 15 seconds at max points and 60 seconds of cooldown, but the major drawback to this is you'll take even more damage by 600%. Lastly, Overload after PP Preservation reduces PP consumptions by 25% of the original PA cost at max points, and this lasts for 15 seconds. In which this is actually a long time than you think. This makes it more worthwhile so you can spam even more PAs at a cheaper cost. Now with Dagger Attack Extra and Saber Attack Extra, both increases your normal attack combo string from 3 to 4, and Dagger Spin Counter and Saber Parry Counter allows you to press a normal attack to counter attack when blocking with a weapon action. Knuckle Attack Extra lets you string up to 5 normal attacks, and this skill has a few tweaks you can get with its 2 sub-skills. Knuckle Attack Swish triggers if you dodge attacks using Knuckles' weapon action. This changes your normal attack string to the 5th attack. And Knuckle Attack Alternation changes your 5th normal attacks, so if you do not input a directional key at the same time with your normal attack, both will do a ground smash, but this one allows for a bigger and deadlier smash. And Knuckle SC Alternation, which SC means step counter, and this allows you to rush enemies with Knuckles if you sidestep counter successfully. Now here's where it starts getting tricky. Fighter Skip Arts, this is what allows you to skip PA variations. If you noticed by now from the Photon Art showcase earlier in this video, the result of the Photon Art animation variant will vary depending on the input that you do. The same art skip attack, if you do the same Photon Art twice in a row, your normal attack combo will change into the 3rd attack string, regardless of what weapon you're using. And another art skip attack is the same thing, except this triggers by chaining 2 different Photon Arts together. And now instead, your normal attack string will change into the 4th step instead of the 3rd. This is where those attack extra skills from Twin Daggers and Double Sabers come in. Acceleration Drive triggers by timing your inputs after any Twin Daggers PAs. There will be a purple shine that indicates that you can normal attack and gap close to enemies, and this skill has 2 sub-skills as well. Dagger Spin Axle relates to your weapon action, so not just your Photon Arts can trigger it, but your weapon action for Twin Daggers as well. Twin Daggers Quick Attack adds an extra attack string to your normal attacks, your Acceleration Drive, and your Photon Blast. This is another purple shine that lets you throw your daggers and give some movement as well. Dagger Hit Count Up PP gain triggers when you land hits with the Twin Daggers Photon Arts or Photon Blast. When you hit a total of 20 times with Photon Arts, you will gain 15 PP back. Dagger Attack Impact grants a little gauge next to your weapon palette. You can charge this by landing Photon Arts with Twin Daggers, and once this fills and glows, your normal attacks will be applied with shockwaves. Deadly Archer is your Double Sabers weapon action. Once you charge your Whirlwind state to its 2nd stage or higher, you'll be able to throw the Saber while dealing massive DPS on enemies. Spiral Drive is almost the same, but it's when you hold your normal attack when you're in the 2nd stage or higher with Whirlwind, dealing AoE damage to everything around you. Saber Wind Extra grants an extra charge to the Whirlwind kit. Originally there's only 2 charges, but now there's 3 with this skill. When using Deadly Archer while in the 3rd stage, all of the Whirlwind will be used and we'll have to start with 0 charges. And meanwhile, with Spiral Drive, instead of being fully reset when used, it reverts back to stage 2. Saber Wind Amplify triggers once either the Deadly Archer or the Spiral Drive is used, making things easier to charge with a Whirlwind back to stage 2 or 3, and you can see the little aura things indicating that this is active. Saber Glaze PP gain allows you to recover 2 PP passively while you're in the stage 2 of the Whirlwind state. Saber Parry Another counter grants Sabers an additional weapon action counter attack. Knuckle Sway counter will automatically counter attack when dodging with Knuckles' weapon action, and Knuckle Sway counter plus enables the weapon action to be used again after the first initial counter. Knuckle Arts Combo PP Save reduces PP consumption when chaining different Photon Arts together with Knuckles. And lastly, a Knuckle Arts Combo Bonus improves it even further when you chain the first half of Knuckles' PAs together. So every directional PAs for Knuckles, basically. And that's basically it for the skill tree. Fighter is a bit complex, but these skills make Fighter very aggressive, and even so, if you fight like dread enemies or anything that can result to physical downs and stuns and all that stuff. And having Fighter either as a main or subclass will benefit that, since you'll do more damage when downs occur. Fighter is also essential for the add-on skill as well, since it gives critical potency up. Jump power potency is good too, and the main 2 sub effects that you would want to aim for is the jump power and the HP up. The other 2 is whatever, and it's not that great. I also want to touch base on the Dagger Hit Count Up PP gain skill, since if you activate Overload and once it expires you get that bonus of reduced PP consumptions, And if you use the daggers and spam PAs, you can spam like as many PAs as you want and get refunded for the amount of hits that you hit with your Photon Arts with the daggers. And since this lasts for 15 seconds, it's like a blessing. And the Knuckles counter attack mechanics are also very good. The damage output of each counter, the iframes you get is insane. And the double Sabers whirlwind mechanics gives Sabers a massive boost for DPS. So overall, they're very good. But yeah, I hope this helps. Whether you're trying out Fighter or you're new to the game and trying out Fighter for the first time and piques your interest, all that stuff. A lot of stuff compared to last year, but yeah, that's it for this guide. I tried to cover as much as possible for the Fighter class, and I hope this helps you as well. If it did, I would much appreciate a like and sub to the channel for more PSO2 content. And with that being said, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.